Okay, this is on July 29th, 2022. This is the next 2-year time capsule. So I'm gonna schedule this for release 2 years from today, July 29th, 2024. Holy smokes. If you, Henry, or the viewer, whoever's here, wants to see what today was like, go watch this video, because that was the reaction to the last 2-year time capsule. So it should give a sense of like where I'm at today. But let's get right into it. How about some predictions for the 2 years to come and, like, I guess by proxy, goals. Okay, first up, the studio. Let me let you see it. I don't think this is it, and I'm actually in talks like right now today about moving studios. Why? I think like mostly location. So when I dreamed this place up and in the original 2-year time capsule, like day 1 in this studio, my vision for the place and how I wanted to design my life was this place, the studio for music and podcasting and business and build would be the hub of all those ideas and then also of people around those ideas. Now, 2 things. Because of the location of this place, it just doesn't lend itself to do that. We're in the middle of the west side. It's like not easy to get here from the suburbs. It's not that easy to get here from downtown. So it just doesn't make any sense for that purpose. But I think secondly, like what's more going on at the moment is I feel like this place has maxed out my creative juice in a sense. It's like every time I step foot in this studio, it reminds me of a past life. It reminds me of the time we were scrapping and hustling to start a couple things and get our first customers and that's good, but it's hard to explain. Like I get sad coming in here. I don't know if that's because I'm alone in here. I don't think it's because I'm alone. I love working alone, but I feel like I've outgrown it. And so what really pushed me over the edge was seeing people like Peter McKinnon, a huge inspiration of mine, to see him constantly reinventing himself. He just put out a video like last week or 2 weeks ago about moving into a new studio. And I think this is his 4th studio. So that got these ideas flowing like, all right, maybe I've really outgrown this place and let's find something with a better location that I'm stoked to go to and is kind of a train. That never changes. It's kind of like a reinvention of myself in the new space, doing new things. The studio. Okay, my life. Life is great right now. We've just got this weird thing going on where I have been nonstop moving, packing and unpacking and traveling since graduating college 3 years ago now. And this nomadness, especially coming off the van trip, the 6 months we spent in a van, the nomad life it's getting to me. Because right now, end of July, I'm already thinking about, well, we gotta move in September. And because of that, it's like, I'm not going deep with friends or on community or with ideas because I know I just gotta pack everything up in 2 months and move again. So I'm having this like existential lowest rung of Maslow's hierarchy of needs, like not knowing where you're gonna live. Granted, we live in a wonderful place and I have wonderful safety nets, but like the day-to-day of not knowing where you're gonna live clouds judgment for all the other decision-making I need to do in a day. There's this funny thing, I was telling Athena about this the other day. It's like, I'm so frustrated because I literally cannot, I could, but I won't buy a t-shirt, buy, B-U-Y, a t-shirt, because I have to think like, should it go to this apartment address or are we gonna move to this place by this day? Or is it gonna fit in my suitcase? Are we gonna go back to the van? And I'm like, I should be able to buy a t-shirt. And I think that's like the most basic way I can paint the problem is just having to think every single day about these super basic, like human rights level things. Can I buy a t-shirt? So yes, I don't know, but in 2 years, I hope I have a clear sense of where we're gonna be long-ish term, like in the 3 to 5 year spectrum, so that I can just operate my day without having to think about where's the next home. Also at 27, we could be dangerously close to like getting married or having a kid. Huh. Okay, myself. The myself stuff is like, I continue to have this to-do. It's been on my to-do list for months to do my like 5-year and 10-year work, social, and home goal setting. And the problem I keep having with myself is I'm really, really, really good at setting the goals for work. 1 year, 5 year, 10 years for work. Really good at that. And that's because my life revolves around work. And I think that's like okay for now. I guess I take the stance that like I'm never gonna have this much energy again, this kind of like mid-20s energy. So while I define myself by my work and I'm absolutely a workaholic and I get all of my energy from work, painting with a broad brush, I guess I'm like okay with that for the next 2 years. That is though at the expense of social goals and home goals, and it definitely takes a toll. So I guess it's just a matter of setting expectations there and hoping that works out. But my point is, I think in 2 years, hopefully I'm skewing more toward the social and the home side of things, because yeah, kind of all I do right now is work. It is in the pursuit of working my hardest now when I've got all this mid-20s energy so that I can like opt out of the game at 30 and raise a family full time if that's what I want to do. I want to, in a sense, win the business game so I can opt out of having to play the game when I don't want to play the game, if that makes sense. Okay, the business. We're like in talks right now, mid-iteration of repositioning ourselves as Clipt, the anti-agency. So right now we're somewhere between a marketplace and an agency, and like we realized, what's our mission? We don't really stand for anything. And when we took a step back and thought about it, we're like, we actually are really defined by the things we won't do, things we don't like about how other agencies work. So that can be our stance, our stance is anti-agency. There is a world in which the agency model works, but we just don't want to play that game. So what does the anti-agency mean? It's like, well, if an agency plays short-term games and works on short-term projects and is trying to compete with other people and win, well, the anti-agency plays long-term games and infinite games where playing the game itself is winning, right? So with these videos, I'm not making these videos in hopes of winning YouTube. I am winning by playing the game of making these videos every day, which I haven't been doing because we've been playing finite games trying to get views, and that's what agencies do, and the anti-agency. Okay, so I hope that worked out. But more exciting for me at the moment is I've kind of been in this in-between of like the last 2 years of the vlog and where I want it to go and I think it needs to go. And that is kind of redefining my format and building Vlog 2.0. Now, the idea for Vlog 2.0 I think is cool because it gets back to the original 2-year time capsule on here in this empty studio with what I wanted to do in the space. It was like launch small products and test things and make cash quick and in a sense have like a portfolio of smaller companies or products that I love the 0 to 1-ness of entrepreneurship. I love building. I don't like maintaining things necessarily. So Vlog 2.0 is going to be around this idea of like, can I launch a product really, really small scale and make $1,000 in a week on that idea? And the hope is this format will give the viewer a better narrative arc to follow along and hang out over. The hope is if I can make $1,000 a week on the idea of a dog book that has pictures of owners and the dogs that look alike, I'm not speaking English, then some kid somewhere like myself, age 13 to 25, will see like, oh yeah, I can do that too. I can scrap too. I can hustle too. So that's the hope, I guess, in 2 years. It would be nice to be like more liquid. Train. 2 trains. More liquid or like cash flowing in 2 years because, again, this is like lowest level of Maslow's hierarchy of needs, having housing stress and financial stress from running a business. It's like, if we could take that off the table, great, sign me up. And then business-wise, I think like Dylan and I, we kind of see our partnership as like Warren Buffett and Charlie Munger. There's not really like anything we would want to start with anybody else. We differ a lot on how we go about things, but that kind of yin and yang is good for us. So I hope we aren't broken up in 2 years. I do hope, because we've been kind of complacent lately, but I do hope we stay hungry and keep building because, I don't know, I just think like the building, the initial sales, like that's so intoxicating and exciting. Okay, here's what I hope to learn in the next 2 years. One big idea I think about a lot is, David Friedberg said this, I forget where, but he was like, there is not being technical, like at a craft, say coding, because that's what I think a lot about, and not yet technical. It's not that you aren't technical and you can't be technical, it's just that you are not yet technical. So I think about that a lot, like a lot of the limits to what we do in business and what we do in our day-to-day, like we spend a lot of time just saying like, oh, I wish I could do that, but I'm not technical. And in 2 years, I don't want to use that as an excuse not to make things. Because I was telling Dylan yesterday, it's like, well, why do I want to learn how to code, for instance? And this gets to the point of like, why do I want to learn anything? And for me, the reason I want to learn anything and the reason I love to learn is because I hate depending on other people. I hate having to take an idea I have in my head and communicate it to somebody else just to try and push them to do the thing that they're not doing that I want to do and I can see, and I just wish I could do it myself. That's why I think inherently I love to learn things, is because I just want to be able to do things myself, because I can always count on myself, or at a minimum, like understand what a specialist is doing because I have some baseline knowledge of that domain. In 2 years, I think it'd be cool to actually learn how to sell better. I was reading this book called Predictable Revenue, and it's basically about this idea of like how to set up a real sales pipeline and track customers and make sure your customer retention is low, because that's a problem we currently have. But what's cool about that is every time we've needed to kind of reinvent some aspect of our business, we just read a bunch of books and figured it out. So how did we learn to go from 0 to 1 in business? We read about it. How did we learn to build culture in business? We read all the books about culture. How did we learn management? I read all the books about management. And so now, like, I think this is very short term, but then of course in 2 years, the next milestone for me is like, okay, how do I learn about sales? How do we set up real like sales pipelines so we can track with some certainty what we're gonna be doing? We can have some predictable revenue. I think the default for a lot of people is to go to school to learn that 0 to 1, or do case studies to learn that culture, or get an MBA to learn management. And I'm like, for $20 in a book, you can just read what the best of the best did in their business. And this goes across all domains. So I love reading. I love reading and I love learning. I think it's important too to note, like Naval will say, read what you love until you love to read. And like I, for instance, didn't read books until midway through college. So I was 20. And now reading books is like probably the only thing I reliably do every single day, and like set time to just read every single day. So I like now literally just love the act of reading. It's like, I read the things I love, but now I just love reading. It could be manifestos or white papers or legal docs or nitty gritty physics or Newton's Principias right there. Like I just love reading, and I think that's a superpower that we're not taught in elementary school, middle school, high school, and so on, is to just like love to learn. So here I am saying what I want to learn in 2 years is, I guess, learning to love learning even more. And then I'm always like constantly learning how to be a better boyfriend and friend and son and family member. And I think the thing there is like I have to learn at times to turn off my rational brain and like be empathetic for 1 freaking second. Like, Henry, not everything has to be psychology and science and behavioral economics. Even if you enjoy it, most people don't, so like shut up. I don't know, that's always been hard for me. I love behavioral economics, and I've always been this way. So rational, so logical. This isn't a humble brag, I promise you, to a fault. To a fault. I think it drives the people around me crazy. All in all, and with Clipt iterating, pivoting now to become the anti-agency, I just hope to be here in 2 years, making videos. Veritasium in this video, I don't know if I'll link it, but He put up this graphic. Ken, please put up this graphic. We're not going to know what it is in 2 years. And it basically shows the lifespan of a YouTuber, and it's like 5-ish years. Now, the trouble is, those YouTubers, as awesome as they are, as awesome as Casey Neistat is, he's the king of YouTube, they're playing finite games. So they're competing with other people to win the platform that has rules and views. They're playing the YouTube game to win. But just like when I started this channel, and I've been lost the last 2 months just thinking about this stuff. Like, I want to be playing this game to play forever, an infinite game. Every single time I got away from making content that was for me and authentic to myself, I got really lost in the sauce. Lost in the sauce? So I hope that this video in 2 years doesn't come out with no other videos around it. It doesn't matter how many subscribers are here in 2 years. It just matters that I'm still showing up, doing the thing, playing the game. See ya.